Good afternoon, everybody. Hoorah. Thank you for taking the hoorah. Well, thank you for taking the time to come this afternoon and learn a little bit about market analysis. My name is Robbie Hughes. Doesn't matter who I work with today. It matters that I'm here as a member of the board, offering up some old school learning, hopefully. I see some familiar faces in here. Some of the stuff that we're going to talk about, you've done. The first question I have is, who has ever graphed a house to create square footage? Who knows how to do that? We're going to learn a lot today, folks. Who has ever done a CMA by hand without the help of a computer-generated CMA? More hands are going up. I'm liking this. Okay? I am a believer that when we teach people how to sell real estate, we need to teach in a practical application. When you leave here today, my hope for you is that you can take something and immediately learn it and put it into your business and be successful with it. It's not based on theory, it's not based on dots, and it's not based on CE credits. You're getting that many for being here today, so I applaud you for coming and listening. Michelle Ginn, longtime realtor, your past president. Past. I've been in this business for 25 years. She has been in it for 23. We hope that we've listed enough homes. We hope that we've done enough CMAs that we can pass along some information to you today that will help. I believe in the Socratic method of teaching. Does anybody know what that is? That is, you're going to get called on. That is, you might have to answer publicly. I believe that if you are sitting at the table of a seller and they say, Cherie, and they ask you a question, you don't get to go, I don't know. I'll get back with you. Yeah. If that's your only answer, you're at the wrong table. Okay, so we're going to practice speaking out in public. Okay, you might get called on, you might not. Don't let that fear you. Okay, those that are up front within the eyesight might get called on, might not. Wrong place. But we are excited that you're here today. Okay? Tell them about how we got here with this, but tell them about yourself as well.
So I think you pretty much covered it. Michelle Ginn, been working in the business since I was pregnant with my 22-year-old, so it's been a minute. And I think the main reason we're here is because, I don't know if any of you came to the appraisal roundtable we had. Great roundtable. We had 4 local appraisers there. And what we figured out pretty quickly is they don't think we're doing our jobs. And in some cases, we may not be doing our jobs. We are trusted by people with the biggest investment they will likely ever make. And we're getting paid handsomely for it. And they're relying on our professionalism and our expertise to give them the information that they need to make a good decision on their investment. So when we heard that the appraisers call on the realtor community to either help them or debate with them on various things, we found that they're not getting a lot of information from us. So we thought it would be a good idea to at least arm you with some of the information so that when they call or you need to call them, you can talk about why you think they're right or wrong in some cases. So that's why we're here. And when we started, we didn't have the benefit of these spreadsheets and the computers and all that. We did everything by hand. We adjusted our CMAs by hand. We went and physically measured houses by hand and graphed them on graph paper and measured them. So, and as you've seen, I'm sure on more than one occasion, we can't always rely on other sites like the Property Appraiser to give us accurate information, and we're going to give you a prime example of that today. So that's why we're here.
Very good. One last thing, she touched on the appraisers. It was probably the biggest thing I took away. Can we agree on this statement today, on this theory today? If we do not do a CMA to establish a price on a house, you're listing, and the appraisal comes in low, can we agree that you should not have the right to call the appraiser and yell at him for coming in low that you didn't do your job up front? Yeah. Is that fair? Okay. So if we don't do our job, we can't yell at him about doing his, which is probably more accurate because you didn't do yours. So today we're going to try to give you some ammunition to give to that appraiser at least comparables that you pulled and said, well, I tried, okay, rather than, well, the seller said this is what they need. what the seller needs and what the house are worth, they don't typically go together, do they? Okay? So, one of the things that Richard, and the other part of this that came up was that when Richard teaches, this is really an MLS advanced class, okay? And one of the things that he runs into is, when he's doing it, is what are the adjustments that people make when they are comparing a house? So, true or false, we always make a we change the subject to meet the comparables in our CMA, true or false? False. We change what? Comparables. Why? We want everything to be like our house, not like the comparable, because the comparables, there should be 3, then you're changing every time to go that way. You want them all to come towards you, okay? So how do you pick a comparable? How do you pick a comparable, Bubba?
Typically by location, last 6 months or less, sold, square footage, backwards.
Okay. Christina, how do you pick a comparable?
Pretty much the same.
Same?
Within a certain radius.
How far out will you go in geographic from the house?
I try to stay within 3 miles.
3 miles. Okay. Yes, ma'am?
I start out at 0.5, but yeah, go up from me about 2 miles.
Okay. 2 miles, 3 miles.
Age.
Age. Right. How far back can we go? What is an appraiser like? 6 months. Why does the appraiser like that? Because the underwriter likes that. Okay? Remember, the appraiser's not working for you. They're not working for the buyer. They're working for the bank. The bank is their client. So they cannot talk to you. They can't talk to the seller. Really, they're not supposed to talk to the buyer. The buyer gets that information from the bank, and then the buyer gives you the information. Okay? So if we can start to think like the appraiser who's working for the bank, guess what? You might close that gap a little bit and have a CMA that has a number that's a little bit more accurate. It is hotter than 5 hells in here. So just that's possible.
I got you.
All right.
Yes.
Yes, we do. All right, so seller calls you to go to the house. How do you get your square footage? Typically, right now, how do you get your square footage, Steve?
If I'm just going to go to the house, I do have property appraisal.
Property appraisal. What's another method? Appraisal. Last time it was in MLS. So you're trusting that when J3 sold that house, he was right. That's a scary proposition, folks. Okay? So those are 3 ways that we did it. Michelle's going to introduce another way.
So I did what you guys said. I had an out-of-town buyer call me last week and said, need to maybe sell my house. Can you help?
Out-of-town seller.
Out-of-town seller. And I said, sure. So I did exactly that. I looked it up in Property Appraiser. And Property Appraiser said it's 1,335 square feet. So then I looked up the last time it was in MLS when she purchased it, and it said 1,690 square feet. You can see that might be a problem. I called her to see if she had an old appraisal. And she did not. So I said, great, I'll go measure the house, which is what I did in the dark with stray cats. So I took my 23-year-old tape measure with me and measured the house. Angle by angle by angle by angle. And what I learned very quickly was inaccurate, very inaccurate. A couple things. There's a storage unit in this garage that they can't see because they don't go in the house. If you ever have anybody come to your door and say they're with the property appraiser and they want to come in your house, they're not with property appraiser. Please don't let them
That's
in your
against
house.
the law. They cannot come in your house. Okay.
And the other thing I found very quickly, and you guys have a copy of this because we're going to let you graph this and measure it. This measurement right here that says 18 feet, it's really 27 feet. So when all is said and done,
Okay. There's over here. There were four piles.
And they should be replenished.
One is a package that Michelle has right now, the one that's stapled together.
is it in there?
It is in there. That's where yours is. The other is this long legal form, which is the CMA sheet. The third is the adjustments sheet. Has a bunch of numbers on it. And finally, a piece of graph paper. You should have 4 different things, and only one of them is stapled.
What page is she looking at in that package?
Page 2.
Page 2, yeah, right here. It doesn't have good numbers.
Should be the second page, and then I'm gonna give you the numbers going around the house, and then you guys will be able to graph it.
Okay, so who, let's see, let's get everybody set right now. Richard's making some more copy. Here, I've got a pack.
Are
Who
you
needs a
okay to
pack?
say for us?
We've got a stapled pack here, Harvey.
So again, you guys, as part of doing our job, these people are relying on us as the experts in our field to give them the most money with the least amount of complications as possible during their transaction. So if I looked at property appraiser and listed this house for 1,335 square feet and it was really 1,690 square feet, have I done the seller a disservice? Absolutely I have. I've left tens of thousands of dollars potentially on the table. Does everybody have this? So what I'd like to do is if you'll take your drawing, I'm going to give you the measurements as we go around the house. Keep going to get more copies.
That's that page right
Yeah,
there.
this
Yes,
is the
ma'am.
second page
Bring
in
as
your
fast as you
packet.
can, yeah.
You should be looking at a piece of paper like this that has a drawing of a house. The outside of a house. Page 2 in your packet.
Keep going to make copies because not everybody has them.
Very good.
The property appraisers will color code stuff and tell you what it is, but in some cases it's a little deceptive. Because see this back square right here? That's not living space, even though it's white like the house. That's just a concrete patio. So you do have to, lay eyes and pay attention. So if you guys will do this for me, along the front of the yellow, put 21 feet 2 inches.
There's no yellow.
Sorry, the garage. What will be the garage? It's lower.
Lower left corner that has
21 feet
21,
2 inches.
21.2. Right over here.
Along the left side of the house, the total is 38 feet 10 inches.
21.2.
38
On the
feet.
right side?
What's the left side, Michelle?
Left side of the house.
Michelle, left side
Left side.
is 38. This line to this,
Yes, this
top
whole
corner,
side.
that line to the
And there is
line,
a fence
38.
there, so pull your tape to the fence, go around to the back of the fence, pull the rest and add. So the back of the house, 58 feet 3 inches. This side of the house, right side, 33 feet 11 inches. And you'll see a property appraiser, they don't say inches, but it can make a significant difference over time. And where it says 18, it's really 27.
Was it 3311?
Yes.
And then what was the last one you said?
The back of the house was 58.
No. The
27.
most
27.
recent you said.
And then this was 8.
The little one that's marked 11 now?
What's marked 11 was 8, right, Michelle? Okay.
And then
What was 18 was 27. Where it says 18, the real number is 27. 11 is 8. And what's across?
across is 9,
So that's correct. 9 stays 9.
and then down is 13.9.
So where it says 16, that is 13.9 instead.
So it's a pretty easy one. It's a bunch of squares.
Yes. So a couple of things real quick. Why do we measure? We talked about pull your tape. Why are we pulling the tape on the outside of the house versus the inside of the house?
Oh, yeah.
Well, but why? What's in between me and that wall over there on the outside? Inside space that's actually square footage. Okay? So if I go from wall to wall in this room, I've just cut out a ½ an inch on both sides, a full foot. Guess what? I just shrank the whole room. Both ways. Okay? So you always pull the outside. Now the trick, using Michelle's numbers, is that you're going to have a beginning point. And after you go all the way around, your line has to come back to that point and close the hole.
Or
Okay?
you go back and measure it.
Because if you're here and your line comes in down here, guess what? You missed something. So, what you have in front of you is a piece of graph paper. Each block, from end to end, there's dark lines. They're 10 by 10. Each block is 1 square foot from one point to the next, but it's 10 feet from one corner to the next corner. Y'all understand that? Okay. Recommendation. This is why you will always have different square footages and different values. I don't use the inches like Michelle just gave me. I round up and down. If it's 25.6, I go to 27. If it's 14.3, I go to 14. And then those gives and takes generally add together, okay? Or I might be at one square off, okay? So what we want you to do is take these numbers and on your own, graph this out, okay? We asked you to bring a pencil because if you're like me, you make a lot of mistakes. And see if you can start and close that gap real quick. And when you're done, just let us know. Take it from the drawing and put it on the graph paper. So that's one. From there to there is 10 feet. Okay, so that's okay. From there to there is 1 foot. From there to there is 2 feet. So if it's 25, you go from there to that's 20, and then you go 5 in. Okay. Do you understand the graphic? Okay. From here to here, okay, from there to there, that's 10 feet. So if it's 25, from there to there is 20, and then you go 5 more. Okay, so each one of these is 1 foot. Each little block is 1 foot, but from 1 foot to dark point, the other is 10. That's right. Round, yeah, round up, down, based on what the inches are. One of them's 11 inches. Make that 34. Make that 39. Make that 50. Make that 57. Only 58. You see what I'm saying?
The one we're missing is the big packet still. What do you need?
Question?
Just the You got the adjustments one. Which one do you need? This one? Yeah, I can get it to separate for me. Who else? The what now? We don't have any more of that one yet. You're talking about the thick packet? No, you have the packet. So this is one you need, right?
Right.
And you may be off a foot or so when you get to the end, but you'll be close.
Anybody else right here? Okay, I'll come around to you.
Okay. Are you on the back of the house? Yeah.
Alright.
10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Okay, yes. Draw that so you can see it. And then you'll drop down. Essentially 34. That's crazy.
Anybody else been missing sheets that I don't know about?
She's asking. That whole thing is 8-8. Don't take the 11 and the 3 and add it together. In the corner, the whole thing is 8-8. The 9 foot is correct.
And the other side of the whole thing is 13.5.
Yes, ma'am.
That's not a decent.
Okay, from there to there is 25 feet. And this one is 38.
That can't be right, Bobby, because that's not deep enough for a
This is 25 feet. What's with? Okay. Hey guys, see where the garage would be? On yours it's gray, here it's yellow. But this corner, the bottom left corner of the house, to where the garage would end, this whole side is 38 feet, but this point right here is 25 feet 8 inches. That's important.
Well,
To
that's
put
just
that-
to the fence.
Well, Yeah, but that's garage. What is that? Okay, so the garage is this way. It's a separate.
Robbie, can you give them again because the
Okay.
numbers we
Go
got.
to the garage. Do that. Really need,
I missed the red 1 foot and I'm gonna, spit out.
yes, you can. Yes. Well, we're gonna count it for right now. We're gonna take that out.
1 foot off.
Well, that's good.
That's
That's
good.
good. That's good. It matters when you're like 10 feet off, or a whole line, you know, you're up here and your other line is down here. That matters. Y'all good? No. Rich.
I was just about to say, I'm taking a picture of my phone and broken screen.
Okay.
Chris, nice to meet you.
There's 1 foot difference in the front of the staff, there's 21, the 9,
Started on that side.
We're learning to do that today.
Yeah, we're on the outside.
This is 30 inches. Okay. This is 13. It's hard to be correct, isn't it? She's got to go and take a picture. Not of this one, but hers. Right. Okay. All right. So in a minute, Richard's going to put Michelle's drawing up on the screen so that y'all can see how her lines came together. You can see her numbers. I'm going to put them on both sides. Right, Richard? You're fired. You didn't even get started and you're fired. Close.
Was it that way?
Close. So this should be 13, 9. This should be 8. This should be 21, 2. That's not close.
Yeah.
That's good. Thank you.
Notice the outside.
Yeah, we're just doing a great work. That's perfect.
I wonder if I have a plan. That's for my skills.
If you guys get close, if your numbers, if your lines are close, you've done the right thing. So what we do next, what I do next, is you gotta calculate the squares, right?
All right, y'all listen up, because we're gonna run out of time, that's not being able to get this. Look at these, and she's gonna explain how she's blocking off to get her square footages.
So this is not necessarily the only way, but it is a way. And I know you're concerned about the garage. We're going to back the garage out. So don't panic about the garages. So what you need to do is take your drawing and just find the easiest way to do your math. To me, squares and rectangles are easier than odd shapes. So in this case, it was super easy just to pull from there and to pull from there. And the math's easy to do as well. If you know that this side is 3810, call it 39, and you know that this is 13, this is 21, you know how to do this math. Same thing here. You know this is 88. And you know this is 27, 88, I do the decimals, 8.67,
Now get your numbers,
234.
times width.
So just break your drawing down into squares again. It doesn't have to be this way, but break it into squares and rectangles that you can easily measure. And then you add them up. And you've got the square footage of the dwelling. Out of which then you need to subtract an area that's not heated and cooled, which in this case was a garage and a storage area. So we'll do that math as well. But just break it into squares and do some math.
So in this case, if you went in and measured each room individually, it's not gonna add up to the total.
No, ma'am. No. You always get square footage from the exterior of the home. When you say, well, what about a 2-story home? Good luck. I mean, it's hard to do. You know, the ones that they're building today, they're the tall 3 stories. If you can get the outside and just times it by 2, that's probably a pretty good way. Okay? 2-story homes present a problem because we don't want you to get a little wider. We don't want you to climb up on the roof. We don't want you to do all that stuff. But they're harder to do. But look at Michelle's drawing, because 1, she's showing you the numbers that you were having trouble with before. 2, she's showing you how to block it off to create square footage. And keep in mind, garages are how deep typically? 20 feet deep. And they're how wide typically? 20, 22, somewhere around in there. So is this a front entry garage or a side entry garage?
Front entry.
Side.
Side.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, 13 feet this way. So is that a single car garage or a double car garage? Single. Okay. You can tell a lot about the house based on its drawing. And you don't even go there.
And then
Shelby.
in addition, in this case, off of the garage, there's a 4x8 storage room up here. So there's another 32 square feet of unheated and cooled square feet. So again, not a huge space, you don't think, but if it's $100 and something a square foot times 32, it adds up. It can make a difference.
Robbie,
Yes, ma'am.
those 3 numbers on the front don't add up to the number on the back. So if you've got 21, 2, 9, and 27, 30.
That's 57, that's 58. But if you take these and you take the inches out, you're close. It's not an exact science because you're giving inches. Do it in round numbers or whole numbers and it will be easier. The idea here is to close the gap. If you're 1 foot off, it's okay. All right, you got to factor in human error. Okay?
Especially.
And that's 1 foot difference, which in my opinion works.
Yeah, just like that. So that's the basics. I know you guys have kind of figured it out. Then you do what I did. You go inside and you measure the garage, which in this case, with the garage and the little storage area, ended up being a 292 feet of space that was not heated and cooled. So you take these totals, you subtract out your non-heated and cooled square space, and you get a number, I did, right around 1690, which is what they had in MLS last time. So they either worked from an appraisal or somebody else measured the house, but it appears to be accurate. And again, from a professional standpoint, It's not 1,335. So if you just go to property appraiser and take that and put it in, we've got a problem. You've got a problem potentially.
Now, when it comes to square footage, two things. We were taught to always round down to 0. Okay? Because if you put in there that it's 1,694 square feet, even though MLS says information is deemed reliable but should not be guaranteed, if somebody, it's the engineers, I hope I'm not one of y'all in here, but the engineers, they pay attention to everything. They buying 1,694 square feet, and they're looking at it on a per square foot basis, and it comes back at 1,687. They might come back to you for that difference in square footage and want to reduce the price. Round down to a 0. That way you've got, we round it down. Okay, that's the first thing. Second thing is, when you're doing your garage, if you don't own one of these, you're in the wrong business already, because you need to have one of these. Where does this end of the tape start? On the outside, we're going to measure the garage to take it out. Does it start on the outside of the garage or the inside of the garage?
Outside.
Why?
Because there's still things in between the outside structure and the garage, inside space.
Okay. Who says inside? Anybody? Right. You can go with inside, because you're taking out inside square footage, not outside square footage. Okay? So that's the only time you're going to measure inside, to take that out. Okay? So I'm going to give you 2 tasks that you ought to do that will be very helpful. Go home and measure your own house. Take a piece of graph paper and measure your own house. You'll practice doing this. The other thing is, the next time an appraiser goes to a house of your listing, because you're in charge of them getting in, ask if you can go along. Watch what they do. Watch how they measure a house. Ask a lot of questions. And I promise you, based on the panel that's sat up here, they will be more grateful that day than any day that they've had in a long time, because you're learning and they're teaching you how to be better and more professional. Okay? Those are both free, by the way. It doesn't cost you any money, it costs you a little time. All right, now you've got it graphed. Now you know how big it is. What do you do next?
Yes.
What?
Sell it.
Well, if you're good like Bubba, you just sell it. Yeah. Or, I like Richard. He's now the competing guy.
That's right.
I like that. Yeah. Or you go look for comps. So go into your package. Now tell them how you did these comps. Sure.
I did them just like y'all said. I narrowed it down to an area. I narrowed it down to a minimum and maximum square footage that was close to the measurements I had gotten. Shooting for 3 bedrooms and 2 baths. And that's what I did. And then I ended up, in this case, pretty close by. This one's right off of State on Gabriel. So there was one right up the street on Ridgecrest. There was one right around the corner on Ford, and then there's one right off of Stanford. So they were all relatively close. That said, you may not pull these same 3 comps, and so your numbers may be different, will be different than mine. You may pull 5 comps because there's a lot, and to me, the more comps, the better. If you can pull 6 or 7 comps, do the work, and every bit of information will just make you that much more accurate. But I pulled these 3, so we gave them to y'all just to make life easy and not make y'all search it. But same as y'all said, area, square footage, date of sale, of course.
Who in here uses the closing cost estimate that floats around town? It has cash, conventional, VA, and FHA at the bottom. I know everybody in our company does, but
The palm one?
huh?
The palm agent?
No, it was written in DOS in the 90s. Okay? Nick Renaud, who used to work here, created a closing cost estimate for San Andrew Bay Real Estate a long time ago, and we still use it today. I introduced that concept because there's a lot of us sitting in this room, and this is how we did CMAs back in the 90s. It was on this piece of paper right here, or this format. So I'm going to ask you to do this. We've got to give them information on this house. So Michelle's going to tell you, she's going to help you fill in the left side, subject property. Okay? Right. So I want you to listen to her, fill in everything that she talks about in the blanks, and then you're going to take your comparables, assuming, we're assuming a couple of things here that y'all picked the same ones, and you're going to fill in all the other blanks to match what it is about those houses.
So on mine, just to get this in there real quick, subject property, you can just put Gabriel for the address. I would drop down to location. I would put something just like Forest Park, so you know what part of the world you're
Y'all
in.
hear it? Forest Park? Okay, come on.
Oh, sorry.
So first address is Gabriel. Location is Forest Park.
Site view, you'll hear the word, we use the word average a lot. It makes sellers kind of irritated when they hear that their house is just average, because of course their house is the greatest ever. But for Forest Park, this view is average. It looks like every other view in Forest Park. So it's just average. There's not a beautiful lake out back, something that would make this lot essentially more appealing. So it's just an average view. Design and appeal, that's kind of like your fields in MLS. I just put ranch. Quality of construction, average. It's a good brick house. Has a new roof. Shop. Age, that's on, I think this was built in 19, I'll have to go back and look. But, oh, thank you, y'all can see that, good. Condition, average, especially for now. It has a new roof, it has new floors, it has some new windows. It's pretty average for what we have right now. Bedrooms and bathrooms is a 3-2. The area I got was 1694, so I would probably put 1690 on here.
On the roof area?
Yes. Functional utility. Do y'all know what functional obsolescence is? Have y'all taken your class recently enough to know what that is? That's just something super weird in the house that you think is going to impact the value of the house. If you have to go through one bedroom to get to another bedroom, that's functional obsolescence. If you have to go, outside to go to the bathroom, that's functional obsolescence, whether it's a bathroom or not. So, and that's kind of one of those adjustments that Robbie's going to talk about that experience will help. But that's what functional utility is adjustments you'll make for something that's just not average or normal. Heating and cooling, central in this case, of course. Garage, so this is a one-car attached garage versus carport versus driveway only. Exterior features, if you were going to give any value to something like a large workshop, for example, that might be heated and cooled with power, there may be value in that. Something like that might have exterior value. This fencing's different. Kitchen, same thing. Again, a lot of kitchens are pretty average. I know you got great cabinets in granite, so does everyone. So even though the kitchen looks great, if it's average for the neighborhood, just put average. If it's amazing, you can adjust the comps accordingly. Covered porches and patios, there's value. There's some disagreement as to whether a fireplace has value or not. I give it value. I think all 4 of the appraisers did not. So, pools. This is a fun one because pools look like they're worth a whole lot of money, and generally speaking, they're not worth as much as anyone wants them to be. Robbie's going to talk on those values. Adjustments for fence. This does have a privacy fence. It did have a fireplace, did not have a pool. And then other, you would just list any other features you think have value. And then Robbie's going to talk about you adjust the comps to look like this subject property, and that's where you make your adjustments. Does that make sense? Does anybody have any questions about Gabriel?
Thank you. All right, so you've got the subject property filled in. Now you go look for your comparatives. Now you have to take the same set of facts from each comparable. You start in the comparable 1, property address. How far is it from the subject? We already talked about that you can go 2 to 3 miles. Can you go across the bridge from this side to the other side? Okay, not in this case. Unique cases, yes, but not in this case. Sale price. It's printed for you in MLS. Price per square foot. That's all. You don't even have to calculate that. It's given to you. And the data source. Data source meaning you got it from MLS. You did not go personally inspect the house. Now, if you're using a comp that you sold, you can put personal inspection. I sold the house. So your first one in the package is 2813 Gordon Street. So let's get that one done before we go to the next one to make sure everybody understands what we're trying to accomplish. Do you need something? You good? Okay. So fill out comparable 1 from top to bottom, and you're going to stop at fencing.
first one, was it, just new roof only, was that the only new?
Had a new roof, it has some new windows, had new flooring.
Hey, guys, if you're on this side of the bridge and it doesn't have a new roof, you need to find another comp. Okay? This is how it is.
Very typical construction stuff.
The only person
We've got it. Hey, this is going to be, this document that you're working on, Richard has saved, and he's going to post it online. If you need another one, call me. I've got it saved all kinds of different ways. So, right on it.
First comp had a one park garage or two park garage?
The first comp had.
Should tell you.
First comp had a two car.
Can you tell from the picture board? That's a two-car.
Yeah, that's a 2-car picture. Yes, ma'am.
Alright, so on this property, where was the
Just, you want to know how far Gordon is from the subject property? It's less than a half mile.
Okay, so that was your church.
Yeah, you can put the less than symbol 1 mile, and that covers it.
Okay, alright.
That's also the one where we related to.
Right.
Michelle, is your subject property updated inside, because there's no notes on there?
Yeah, a little bit. It's got the new flooring. It's been painted. Any hurricane repairs have been done. The door.
They're comfortable.
Okay, so the purposes of condition of the subject property. You heard her say it's got new floors, it's been painted inside, and the hurricane damage has been repaired. That's important to know, because you don't have that set of facts like you do in the comparable property narrative for you. You don't have the subject property information. Yeah, that's just. This is Michelle's listing. When you are done with comparable 1, we'll give you about 2 more minutes to write the information down on comparable 1. Then we're going to go over the adjustments so you understand how to do those. Every time. This one right here, 17. That's what I do every time. State attorneys told us you gotta have word. Yeah. Remember those minutes? That had to be in there in order for the list to go out. So. All right. Everybody has an adjustment sheet. You see that in front of you? Okay. This is really important, folks. Listen real clear. There is not, I repeat, not a number that is correct for every adjustment that we're going to give you. A fireplace is worth different to you than it is to you, than it is to you, than it is to me.
Just figure that one out.
All the time.
Yeah.
So we have given you a set of ranges to work with. What's going to be interesting here is you all have the same piece of paper. And after you get done with your adjustments here in a minute, you're all going to have a different number for the comparable number one. That's what we're going to work on first. Let's talk about a bathroom. Understand that kitchens and bathrooms are the two most expensive rooms to build in a house or remodel in a house. Right, Zach? That's right. Why? There's plumbing, there's electric, there's sheetrock, there's appliances. All of those go into there. Where in a bedroom, all you have is flooring, sheetrock, electric. Okay? They all have the same roof. So those are the two most expensive. So if you're in a $500,000 home versus a $100,000 home, which bathroom is going to cost more to build, you think? Why? It's the same size, but why? You started it. Come on now. You answered. It's the same size. Why is it more expensive? Materials, finishes. I may put travertine floors in the $500,000 and I may put vinyl squares in the $100,000 one. That right there just made it more expensive to build. Agreed? Okay. So, full baths versus half baths. All of these that are in here, I want you to look at it. There's a couple of things in here that are difficult. Age. Now, Michelle said, and we were getting ready for this, that she's not changing age these days.
Not always.
Not always. But why? Take the road. If you live on this side of town, I know you beach guys, this is a concept you're not going to get. Everybody's house is messed up. Okay? And everybody's house inside looks pretty now. So if this house was built in 78 and this house was built in 89 and everybody on the inside new, does age really matter anymore? Right. Okay? So that's subjective, but the way that I do it is after we get 5 years apart, up or down, I add $750 a year difference, times that by the difference in age. Why? Does it cost more to build today than it did in 2019? Yeah. You know why? Because every January, all the people raise their costs. Materials and laborers all raise their costs every January. And then when oil goes up and down, your price of lumber changes, everything changes because there's so much oil in all of what we use. So that's something to keep in mind. The second one is square footage. Steve, how would you equalize a difference in 200 square feet in a house? How do you come up with a difference in square footage? Your subject is 1,600, your comp is 1,400.
Well, with your comp, you're going to have to subtract your price per square foot.
Well, okay. You're going to go up in square footage. You remember, you're changing the comp to meet the what? The subject. But how do you put a number on the difference of square footage? If the comp sold for $140 a square foot, are you going to use $140 a square foot times 200?
No.
No. Why?
You have to use an adjusted square foot.
An adjusted square foot because why? The houses are already built. They're already there. We're not putting new back into it. That's what it's sold for, the overall. Okay? How do you get to an adjusted square footage, Eric?
You got to factor in land. Don't you take the land out of that adjusted square footage?
That's one way to look at it. Yeah, that's one way to look at it.
And then you use, I don't know, that's why I came.
There you go. I like that. Yes, ma'am. Okay, what am I adding up and dividing?
The price per square foot on all of them, and then you divide it by however many comps you have, and then that's your average.
You're on the right track. Christina, you list a lot of houses. How do you come up with difference in square footage? What do you apply, or do you apply a square footage adjustment at all? Close? Okay. All right, so if they're within 50 square feet, do we make a change? Probably not. So let's run with this theory right here. She's on to it. Again, let's go back to the appraiser. We got to think like them. Okay? Way to think like them is to go ask questions of how they do things. So, long time ago, well, not a long time ago, a few years back, this appraiser said, I was on to that theory. He said, yeah, but you can't just divide by 3 and use that number if you're using 3 comps. He said, do that and take somewhere between 25 and 30% of your average number, and that's what you apply to the difference in the square footage. So, if our average is $100 a square foot, and we use 30% of that, now it's $30, a difference in square footage, and we're 200 square feet. 30 times 200 is what? Huh?
6,000.
6,000. So that's the way we apply the difference in square footage. Does that make sense? Now what you've done, an appraiser told me that. Okay? I didn't dream this up. We're not reinventing the wheel. Go to the source that is in charge of the value of your home, of your listing, that's going to make it close, and ask them how they do it. Why try to dream something up when a guy's going to do it for you in a real estate transaction? Okay? So that's just one way to do it. What we're talking about up here, it is not the end-all be-all. It is what has worked for us. But more importantly, it's what you guys, if computers shut down today, okay, by a show of hands, when I first asked the question, we wouldn't know how to comp a house out. Okay? Because we need to be able to click go and it tell us what it is. Right now, you're learning how to do it without a computer. Well, minus getting the comps. So your square footage difference, I want you to calculate just the difference in square footage right now between the comparable and the subject. Well, you can't really do that. Hold on a second. Let's do this. Where are the...
April 1690. Oh, yeah, there's a difference.
Yeah, but there's a difference, but we got to get the average. All right, somebody pull out a calculator. Gordon is 1560 plus 1680 plus 1355 divided by 3. What's that number?
1531.
Okay, take 30% of that. Wait, that's square footage. Never mind. I need the price per square foot. My bad. Okay, come back with me. Come back with me. 134. Yeah. 134.62. Okay, 130.77. He's doing these differently than I am. Plus 117.86. Plus 135.79. Divide that by 3.
128.
All right, give me 30% of that. How many? 38. Okay.
38.
What did you use?
Okay.
25?
30.
30. So we just took 30% of the sold prices per square foot. And let me also add this. At no time did the appraisers at this panel say that going by price per square foot is a good idea. They hate it. They wouldn't even talk about it. Okay. We live that way, folks. That's just how we're trained to think. So we're straying a little bit from the appraisers right now. Okay. So take those 3, get the average, multiply it by 30%. So now you have a number to work with on the comparable number 1. Figure out the difference in square footage.
What was that number that was concluded?
$38 a square foot. That's the replacement cost on average of your comparables that you chose. That's the replacement cost. Not rebuild, replacement.
So is it just 38 or is it
38.
plus the 128?
No, 38 times the difference in the square footage of the comparable, the subject to the comparable, whatever that number is, I don't know what it is, 110 times $38. What's that number? 110 times 38. 41.8. $4,180. All right. So, see where it says it has a little box out beside square footage. That's where you're going to put $4,180. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Is that a plus or a minus?
Minus, right?
Why?
Because you wanna take it away from the comparable.
From there to.
Okay. Remember, we're trying to make the comparable be like the subject. Is the comparable smaller or larger? Smaller, so it's got to go up. So it's going to be a plus in the adjustment side of $4,180.
Wait, what? You gotta wait, what?
Yeah, I got a different amount.
38 times 110 equals what?
It's 4,100. The square foot difference is 130 times 38.
Time out.
That's why I'm confused. Where are the differences?
Time out, guys. Listen. Okay, we're going to run over these numbers again.
Yeah, but we calculated out to be
90. No, 16.
You're going to have different, each of y'all are going to have different square footages here. Nobody's the same. You've got your own square footage number. That's the beauty in this.
But I thought she gave us the subject
She
square
gave you
footage.
her square footage.
Is that not what we're going by?
Yes.
Yes.
And then the sales,
Well, you calculated your own square footage.
How big was the
Oh, I thought we were
difference?
going by here.
Go by what your calculation is.
That's what she had 107, just 200. The key is whether you're adding or subtracting.
Yeah.
That's the important.
Remember, you drew your own drawing. Back here.
All right, make it like this.
Y'all drew your own drawing. Don't trust Michelle's. You just drew yours. Use your number. That's what this is about. You're creating the block. You're creating and adding the numbers. And you're going to take what is in MLS as the gospel of what that square footage is. That's the only one that's the constant.
The important part is the add.
The add. That's right.
You're adding that to this. Come here.
Okay. Do y'all have that number? Everybody has that number. Now, go down your comparable with your price adjustment sheet and make the differences in your comparable number one to the subject either a positive or a negative adjustment. So, bedrooms and bathrooms, square footage, condition, pool, fence. Start at the top and go down.
So for this, do you want us to compensate the age or not compensate the age?
We just gave you two different, we gave you two ideas. Michelle says no, I say anything after 5 years difference, whatever that difference is above 5 years, $750 a
So
year.
we can just do whichever one.
Whichever one you want.
If they both been remodeled, though, they're equal.
There you go. That's one way to look
That's
at
kind of where I am on a lot
Right.
right now.
it. Okay? How are we doing over here? Square footage is coming down. Just make your adjustments on all of the other items it's already there for you.
So the reason we, the square footage, which one is this is bigger, so the adjustment is going to be plus. Bigger, the adjustment is plus.
My numbers are all skewed, because I didn't realize that was their
Okay, this one here is the car. This one here is one car garage, this one is a two car garage. It says on your sheet over here, the adjustment should be 5 to 7,000. So I'll go in the middle. If it's just that, that's going to be a minor. Because this would have a 2 car garage. This one has one car garage. It's a minor.
The consummate salespeople. Well,
Take it back up, so Robbie.
take a kick. We got kick out clause just in case.
I did six, we can do seven. But it goes, this is more.
We disagree with that a little bit. I think the market value is you have to adjusting your asset, correct? I give it anywhere from 1,000 to 1,000. I think the value for a lot of people to be able to have an extra kid, you would have to go to the area. I think that's a minor one, but you're right, it's not, you have to be taking it on. So, I think it's somebody do it all. 1/3 is in a second living area as well, you know? Yeah. Clearly, so even though you take an that's a great example. That was so great. It's really nice when they're even when they're closed. But then $70,000, I'm thrilled.
We've given you a range. You pick what number is. If you want to do 10, you're 75, whatever you do. After the garage, comparative.
I'd probably say it's a 5 to
What about
10,000.
now I'm adjusting for one car garage? You get your limit. That's your limit. I would be conservative, yes.
Extra storage, you know, that's maybe a little bit.
We got questions? Yeah, good. Maybe I got answers. Okay, so we need to know what the condition of Gordon is. It might tell you in the narrative. The kitchen, porches, it's going to talk about that in MLS. Chain link fence versus privacy. So you guys are on the right track. I don't calculate. I don't make a change for porches and patios. Just put no.
Okay, and then.
Condition is right here. So that's average. Well, okay. This is why it's really important when you list a house to really talk about what its condition is. Or if you're going to, when you sell a house and there's sales conditions, put that at the bottom as you're closing it out, because it helps us when we're trying to sell and we're trying to comp off of your listing. You know what I mean? Or vice versa. So you have to read the narrative about, and that's how you're going to come up with a condition. Well, she told you that it had new floors, it was painted in the hurricane damage since repaired. Average for the year. It'll be average for the year. Right, there you go. That's right. That's right. Alright, we good? Alright. Oh, listen, we got sold and stuff, we take back our homes. Take away half. All right, guys, 2 more minutes. 2 more minutes. So when you're done with this, you should add it up, minuses and pluses. Okay? Okay? Condition, I would put above average. Or average plus, however you're going to call it. Okay? But there's a difference. Subjective. Okay, you can yeah, on this side of the bridge. So you've seen the difference in how somebody puts it together over here, they've done it together over here. 100% that's on you. There's no barometer on that. What I do is I look at where they spend the most money. They spend it in the kitchen and the bathrooms. It's going to be a higher number. And all they did is pulled up floors and put carpet and LGT and walls, and it's not going to get as much. So it's about the rooms and how they've done it. Absolutely. Everybody knows. Okay, not everybody gets the inside. Like my kitchen, for example. I pulled out 1/4 sheet of sheetrock.
So I'm on the
But
same
I
page.
still have porch and all that. It's still an average kitchen. But that's all I do. So when they tell you, you'll know more about it. Okay? It's purely subjective. I don't, everybody got a room. Yeah. All right. Yes, ma'am.
You're on.
And we'll get to that in just a second. All right. Couple of things, guys. We're going to run out of time here. We told you that we're going to be from 2:30 to 4 o'clock, and we're going to hold ourselves to that.
Not with us.
I'm about to say, I'm not even here we're talking.
What you have just experienced is that you have to rely on the information that is put in MLS by the realtor who listed that property. Okay? Unless you sold it before. So I beg you, going forward, if you're the listing agent, put as much information in there as possible. If you have to write a book, it's okay to write a long narrative about it. Tell us about that property. Make that buyer want to see it, but more importantly, let us know what it looked like, because you know what? You're not going to go to that somebody's house and knock on the door and say, I'm doing a CMA, I need to come in and check your house out. They'll be like, go away. Okay?
We got 50 pictures anymore now. Everybody got
We got
50
pictures. Look at take pictures. Digital is free. Free's the best four-letter word you're ever going to see. And we can put as many in there. So that's the first thing. Second thing is, in the narrative on Gordon, it says that it has a privacy fence, but then in the bottom it checks it has a chain link fence. What do you do about that? You call Jimmy and say, what were you thinking, dude? Okay? So, give us accurate information from beginning to end so that we can, hey, you're helping us as much as we're helping you. Okay, we're putting a property on the market as the listing agent, but we're using your information to get it there. Okay? So those are the two things. Now, you should have adjustments in the minus and the positive categories that should add up to something. It's either a positive or a negative. Who got positive? Who made an adjustment, a total adjustment up in the positive manner?
Well, that depends on what
Well, comp one only. Comp one only. When you add all of your adjustments up, was it a positive or a negative? Negative. Okay? Positive. Who has positive? Raise your hand. It's okay. There's no right or wrong answer here. Who has a negative? All right. Whatever your number is, I want you to take the sale price of that comparable and either add that number to it or subtract that number from it.
So 204 minus or plus that number.
Okay?
204.
It's sold for 204.
Sales price.
Sold for 204.
Yes.
Well, we know that.
That's one of my first lessons.
So now you have an adjusted.
Oh, so we're comparing these.